Welcome to episode 41 and the first episode of 2025 of the Coast AFL Podcast, when you can play all sports edition. This week, Psyrick and I will be dipping into what's going on in the cricket over India's tour of Australia and the Women's Ashes. We will be touching on the NBL, the Australian Open, the NFL, and maybe even some Australian baseball as well. So let's jump straight into it. How are you doing, Mr. Psyrick?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just brushing off the post-holiday lethargy, I guess. Had a pretty solid Christmas, pretty solid New Year's. Nothing too complicated, but you know what I mean. It's just like a bit of extra food, bit of extra naps.
Yeah,
It's all good, sort of thing.
Yeah, I pretty much had the same thing. I got that week off between Christmas and New Year's. I was still working on the 24th. I went back to work the 2nd, so I didn't really have too much of a break. But I did get this sick tattoo. That's still currently healing. I've just shown the audience.
Yeah. I saw the what was it? What you posted on Instagram yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't know it. Yeah.
It's
paw.
It's George's paw. He's been gone for 2.5 years now. So that's how we wanted to immortalize him. So now he's on Now he's on my dad and I's shoulder, and my brother's got it on his forearm back here.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about some sport. So let's jump straight into the men's cricket team and what they had to deal with against India.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think I've seen Test cricket this talked about in a fair while. Obviously, India coming in as one of the strongest teams, Australia coming in as one of the strongest teams, going around. Nice mix of veteran talent and up and coming players for both teams, especially India, deciding to take a few youngsters, especially in that first test in Perth, debuting, what was it? It was Nitish Kumar Reddy, and I'm pretty sure Washington Sundar was new. Or at least maybe it was his Australian debut. I can't remember. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. I think we talked about it initially, what happened in Perth. So that was wrapped up fairly quickly. That was Australia gets bowled out very easily. Boomerang looked fantastic. Signs of things to come. And we thought, oh no. Have we overrated ourselves?
Another tour in jeopardy.
Yeah. So, and then, Australia cleaned India up just as quickly. India just end up winning that game, as we know. And then sort of just a bit of an arm wrestle. Australia taking the day-night test. They continue their dominance, win by 10 wickets in Adelaide Oval. Honestly, that was pretty straightforward. India's batting, which was pretty much consistent through the entire tour, they couldn't consistently get things going. Australia, not overly solid, especially with our top order stuff. But players like Travis Head and a few people in the middle order, Cummins put a few runs in. I think in that one, what was it? Oh yeah, Labuschagne made some runs. First time in a while. So that was good. And then we get to the third test at the Gabba. Australia looked absolutely dominant. Made the only big innings for the entire series, all out for 445, including a Steve Smith 100, Alex Head 152, and a few cheeky runs by the tail enders, mainly Cummins and Stark. And then, as I said, India, probably really lucky that game got rained out because they were heading for a beaten, didn't happen. So we go to the fourth test at the MCG. Australia win that. I'm pretty sure that also there was a bit of extra riding. If you don't know, the what's it called, Test Championship or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit arbitrary. It's been put in only recently.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, basically, you get a yearly schedule. Certain test matches count towards playing into the championship, and the best two teams over the year face off. Australia beat India in India last time to win it. South Africa already secured their spot with their win against, I think it was Sri Lanka.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been either Sri
So,
Lanka or Pakistan, probably.
yeah, well, it was in the subcontinent anyway. So yeah, and it's hard for battle. Apparently they had a fairly easy schedule, but I mean, there's not that much difference between any team's schedule. It's just a bit weird. Cricket's like, you've got teams playing like 15 matches. Some teams are playing like 10 over the 2 years or whatever it was. But,
Oh yeah.
It is what it is. I don't think anyone takes it overly that serious in terms of competitions. Mostly, as I said, like the individual trophies between teams, like the Australian India Border Gavaskar Trophy,
Mm-hmm.
the Ashes, obviously. But anyway, so Australia locked themselves in with that, but they still needed to win to secure the Border Gavaskar Trophy, because if they lost, India would have retained on because they won the last series. But then, we get to the SCG, and probably one of the most, what do you call it? It was a very fast-paced test. The SCG, just off the football, we know all about it.
Yep, we do.
Sort of made the pitch a bit, I'm not sure, because I think they don't use drop-in pitches, but I'm not sure which stadiums have drop-in pitches and which don't. And if you don't know, drop-in pitches just means they take a pitch that's grown outside the stadium and put it
brought
in.
it in. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know which ones do that.
But either way, it was a green top. It was absolutely beautiful with the bowling. Jasprit Bumrah. I've mentioned some of the batters but we're going to talk about Bumrah in a bit of depth in a second. But he absolutely tore through the Aussies yet again.
Mm-hmm.
It was another short one. Sorry, India batted first. I read the scorecard wrong, but as I said, so both teams get fairly low first innings totals, and then India, unfortunately, looked to be making an okay start, and then proceeded to get out very quickly for 157. But at that time, Jasprit Bumrah, man of the series, he was just ruled out. They didn't really have the bowling stock to defend such a paltry total. It wasn't 157, it was like 160 odd, just due to the where the totals was. 162, in fact. And Australia made that in 27 overs, with debutant Bo Webster having a very solid knock to finish the innings.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You have noted here a couple of very specific little bits, little bit of tidbits, like Steve
like
Smith
writing the word Bumrah.
Oh, that one too.
Oh,
but I was the Steve Smith one. I feel like is more well notable.
So Steve Smith on the last day, it was a bit of a shame, because at that time Australia seemed fairly secure. He was reaching up to his 10,000 runs in Test cricket, which is a huge feat. I think I'm trying to think. Australian players, I think only 4 players have achieved it.
Probably.
I need to look that up.
It's definitely a very small margin.
Yeah, Test cricket runs.
And I think out of all the current modern players, he'd be the only one, really.
Yeah. So, so ahead of him, we've got obviously Ricky Ponting.
Yep.
He has the second most in history. Alan Border.
Yep.
Shane Warne.
Yep.
Shane Warne. Steve Waugh.
Steve Waugh. There you go.
Yeah. And then Steve Smith. And the only other players currently playing that have more is Joe Root, who is ranked 5th in the world. with 12,972.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. Actually, no, Joe Root's retired from
Yeah, he's retired from Test cricket
think.
now, I think.
Yeah. So, Virat Kohli is the next best.
Oh.
I can show you the link, actually. You might be able to show the viewers.
Yeah, chuck it in. I will bring it up.
I'll put it in the Discord so you can flick it up. But yeah, so pretty much it's pretty. You need a bit of luck because you basically have to not get injured and play enough test matches. So you have to come in pretty early into the test side. As you know, sometimes you can come into really good squads. It's hard to debut. Australia have had a lot of batters that have come in very late into their careers. Obviously, Chris Rogers, Mike Hussey is another one. Showing a bit of WA highest, but they're the ones that come into my mind. Rogers is another one. But yeah, so you have to come in pretty early. Steve Smith, ironically, sort of came in as in an era where they were trying to find a lot of bowling all-rounders. Not bowling all-rounders, sort of all-rounders. Their bowling was a bit weak. Steve Smith had a few leggies, all right with the bat, so I was like, why not try him out? And his bowling, fair to say, never got that much better. But his batting over the years really took off. And yeah, as I said, he's an absolutely fantastic career. Unfortunately, not to be this, he was batting very nervously in that final. I'm not sure if it was in his head or, whether it was just a bit of, I don't know, like a lapse in concentration sort of thing. But yeah, so British picked him up. I will say British Krishna. It was his only bowling test, that one. India did have to shuffle a few bowlers, and I thought he put his head up. He had a very hard task. Bumrah was out. Everyone was saying, oh no, Bumrah, they can't possibly do that. And again, British wasn't even the second choice because what's his name? Akash Deep was injured, didn't play the last test. And, still picked up 3 wickets in that final innings. I think a couple, 3 in the first innings as well. So shout out to him. But yeah, as I said, unfortunately, Steve Smith won't be able to do it in front of his home crowd because actually, I assume he's from Sydney. Yeah, born in Sydney, New South Wales. So unfortunately, 1 run short of making 10,000 runs where he grew up. But yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. But, just the rarity of making that runs, as I said, would be the 4th Australian to do it. Yeah, should be able to do it in Sri Lanka. Fingers crossed. He's got 4 innings to do it.
Provided he plays. A sudden injury might stop him, but he should be good. There's nothing that's really shown up for him to be injured anytime recently.
Yeah, we are resting a few players because I'm pretty sure the South Africa test isn't that far behind it. The Sri Lanka test will be at the end of this month. I think it starts on the 25th of January.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but as I said, so we're resting a few players. A few players from that test got injured. Obviously, the biggest one, Hazelwood, injured early in the test, got replaced. He'll miss out on the next test. It's only a 2-test series against Sri Lanka, which I always find a bit weird, but so and he was at Stark. He's going to miss with his back complaint, and I'm pretty sure they're resting coming. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, because Steve Smith was asked to captain.
That's right. Yes. So
yes,
Steve Smith should play in that case.
You would hope so. As I said, you never want to be stranded on that amount. And you know what? I'm sure, if the cruelest thing happens, Steve Smith might be able to go. You know what? I don't know. Honestly, even if it was out with an Achilles, I would just send him into a dead rubber test. See if he can just get him 1 run.
It'd be funny if he did it against England though, for the Ashes. Like just miss Sri Lanka and miss South Africa completely, and then just did it against England.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure which is first, the Ashes or the Sri Lanka one.
I'm pretty sure the
Um,
Ashes are more when England hits their summer, so it's like May-ish.
yeah. Um, anyway. Oh yeah, no, it's actually very late. Um, no, because it's Australian.
Oh yeah, we hosted this year. That's right.
Yeah, so it's in next December. So I couldn't remember if it was early
Oh yeah,
this year
he's not
or
gonna wait.
late.
He's not gonna wait like 11 months to do it.
No, there'll be more tests in between. Um, but yeah, as I said, I was a bit confused because obviously the women's Ashes, which we'll touch on in a bit,
Mm-hmm.
is earlier. But yeah, as I said, in terms of that, I don't know if you've got up the stats. Um, I think I linked it in
Of the tour
the
itself. Yeah, I have them up.
yeah, and we can just go over some of the leaders from the Test series as well. Um, you've got them up. I think it's sorted by most runs initially.
Yes, it is sorted by most runs initially, with Trevor's Head
Yeah.
sitting at the top.
Yeah, very good knock. He's been probably our best batsman for the year, which is
Didn't he go out for a duck in like day one, day two? Or actually, it might have
he
been day
would
three. It
have,
might have
but
been the Boxing Day test. He went out for a duck. I can't remember.
yeah, there was a couple of ducks, but it's a pretty great bowling. Like there, with Scotty Boland, Jasper Bumrah,
Mm-hmm.
Hazelwood, even. There was some insane bowling averages. Like I think, oh man, I'll look at it, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, four players averaging under 20. And if you don't know what that means, it's how many bowls have to be bowled for you to expect a wicket. So, yeah, so 20 is, what is it? 3.5 overs? If I can do my math.
Give or take. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
3.2, 3 sixes are 18, add 2 is 20. So yeah, so you got three players. Well, actually, three players all under that 3 and over. So every 3 overs, expect them to get a wicket. So pretty insane bowling averages there. But we'll go back to the batting if I can. So yeah, so the most runs, Travis Head, average of 56, strike rate of 92. One of the most impressive thing too is like how, because there was a lot of aggressive batting in this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Travis Head's aggressiveness always sort of suited the conditions. It wasn't all that dangerous. It was just, runs flowing, fairly reliable. He stayed in a fair bit. Obviously, it's a lot easier when you don't have to face a new ball, especially off just for Bumrah. But they were so willing to just chuck Bumrah another few overs. So he still had to face a fair bit of him. And, I thought he had a very impressive series. The top batsman for India is the young gun himself,
Mm-hmm.
Yavashi Jaiswal. What a gun player, only 23 years of age. Ends up leading for the series, average of 43.44 in Australia, opening the batsman. And opening the batting, still getting a healthy amount of sixes, 4 sixes, 44 fours. So while he did have to stave off a lot of the Australian bowling opening, he was still fairly aggressive when he needs to. And yeah, as I said, for a young player, considering how bad India's top order was, for him to be, holding steady. Well, the opening partnership, I will say that Rahul was pretty decent at times.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't a few innings where he didn't quite stay with him when he needed to, but as I said, it was just hard just to have an opening partnership in this. And yeah, as I said, Jaiswal, absolutely fantastic. And then you go through the battings, like the third was Steve Smith. It was good to see him get a few more runs back. Not always the cleanest. A bit like Labuschagne, can look a bit awkward at times, especially in the first few tests. But otherwise, probably a good return to form. And then Nitish Kumar Reddy, again, fairly young player, 21 years of age, showing up overseas, absolutely fantastic knock. A few times he gave his wicket away a bit cheaply when he, later in the innings, but, he was batting at sixth, I think, seventh normally, and averaging 37.25. It was absolutely fantastic. And then, as I said, the rest were pretty much up and down. You have Rizbar Pants as well, who was probably the next most notable batter in terms of the good. Because fantastic strike rate, and occasionally he could stay in. Like, there was a lot of talk about him getting out cheaply. He loves the big hit. He plays some weird shots at times. But he's at a lift or run rate. And you know what? If you're playing Rizbar Pant, you can't really expect him to stay in for long periods. You have to back in your top order. It's sort of like playing Glenn Maxwell in a test. You know what I mean? Like, you play it if you want to play a more offensive mindset. It's a bit different. Rizbar Pant also keeps. But yeah, as I said, he still provided. He still tried to stay in when he want. And, you can criticize him for throwing away his wicket. But, compared to some of the other players in the India's top order, whether it be Kohli, who was very disappointing, or Rohit Sharma, he had an absolute nightmare as the captain, who got outscored by Jasprit Bumrah, of all people. So, I thought Rizbar Pant did fairly notable. We'll flick over the high scores. Jaiswal, he's 161 in 297 bowls. It just says versus Australia versus India. I'm not sure which one that was. I think that was one of the. I think it might have been the draw game. He scored 161.
Oh, yeah.
It was either that or the day-night test. I can't remember. I know one of Head's innings was the day-night test. The other one was the big 475. And then, there was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600s.
I didn't realize that
for the entire
Head hit over 300s. That's actually that is actually
no,
crazy.
It's just two. No, it's just the
Oh
two.
no, sorry, I'm looking at balls. Sorry, that's my bad.
No, you're good. So 200s. Still an 89, which was very good. And yeah, as I said, so a fairly big round. I will also say, Bo Webster looked pretty solid with the bat. One innings, came in at the last game to replace. Who did he replace? I can't even. Oh, Mitch Marsh. That's right. Who had a pretty bad series, unfortunately, and he looked very solid when there was a bit of pressure on him to make some runs. First, when Australia got out, in a bit of a bad spot, made some crucial back innings runs, and again to finish not out in the final run chase, and he did pretty well. And of course, we can't really finish this without talking about. I'll finish the batting summary without talking about Sam Comstas. Were you able to see this innings, Blazy?
I was not, sadly.
Well, it was really the first innings in Melbourne, Boxing Day test, and oh my lord, because Bumrah, I probably could have talked about Bumrah before bringing out contest, because all in all, he had the 4 innings. He averaged 28.25, and you might shrug your shoulders. Made most of it in his first innings, where he scored, I think it was 73. I could probably check. It's probably in the high score. No, it isn't. So it must be in 60 something. But the way he went about it, took Jasprit Bumrah. He was absolutely bowling a treat, and just said, "Hey, you're bowling very high swing, bowling very full. I'm just going to ramp you." And, we've seen the ramp shot be played more and more. But to take a bowler bowling at, what would he be bowling? Like, probably average of high 130s, often bowling with 140s, probably 2 or 3 balls and over is going to be 140 plus. Might even be a bit higher than that. Maybe 130, high 130s is low for his average, but, And yeah, as I said, to take that on, get behind the ball, scoop it up over your head, to access that area of the ground for a young kid who was replacing someone who, you know, unfortunately couldn't get going. I've totally whiffed on his name. um, McSweeney, Nathan McSweeney, that's right. You try to play aggressively, couldn't stay in. Well, it was a mix of defensive and aggressiveness, but Consus just went, "Hey, I'm just going to go all out," and to be able to like put India on the back foot, especially for that gap, really helped. And it was just very entertaining to watch. Um, Especially because it's 19 years old. Yeah, 19
Yeah,
years
he's
old. So
very young.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, absolutely crazy to see. If you're watching the Big Bash and you want to see more of Sam Consis, he plays for the Sydney Thunder. He's a very good Big Bash player as well. But yeah, this is just something that was so unexpected. Even players growing up with him were like, yeah, he can still play defensively. I do think from what I've seen, like his defense at the highest level needs to improve a bit. Because when he was trying to play a bit more straight bat, orthodox,
Mm-hmm.
there was a bit of gap that Boomerang was able to expose. I think he got him out a couple of times afterwards. So, but yeah, as I said, absolutely fantastic, very inspiring, and yeah, one of the highlights really. Like I know theoretically, I said I'm a sports nerd. Technically, you can say, oh, he didn't actually score that many runs. It was only one innings, whatever. But just I think, and that's the biggest separation. And I made a bit of a point of it is that Australia were a lot more willing to go bold. I know that I said India picked a few young people, but they played in a fairly conservative way with the captaincy,
Mm-hmm.
and whether that's field setting or team lineups at times. Yeah, as I said, even the run chasing mentality, like India very much flip flop between playing aggressively and playing conservatively, where Australia, seemed to be more on the same page. You weren't getting like swings of wickets where everyone was trying to just go all out or, play too defensively. Because obviously, when the ball's swinging, the more defensive shots you play, the more likely you are to nick one of slips.
Yeah.
So, it's a very tough situation, very hard bowling deck. And honestly, not that much between the two teams, but I'll definitely say that, yeah, it was just sort of the aggressiveness from Australia, the creativity. Obviously, India and Bumrah were fantastic, but I did think they sort of missed a beat by playing Bumrah so much. They really never tested out the spinners. Sometimes Washington, Sundra looked okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thought he could have got a few more overs and just never really got picked. Akash Deep, I thought was bowling all right at times. He was very unlucky not to get a few more wickets. He had a few drops from him, especially in that fourth test where they dropped a few. Yeah, so I thought he probably could have had a few more overs at times, but yeah, as I said, yeah, that was pretty great. And talking about bowling, we'll quickly go over the bowling stats before we wrap this the tour up.
I have most
Uh,
wickets currently up at the moment, but if you want to go
cool.
over anything else, go for it.
Yeah, well, most wickets, just for Pumara, 32, which when you think about it is like, well, how many innings are there? There's two per match, or two lots of tens, so that's what, 100. That's almost
Yes.
a third of wickets taken by one man. And that's even considering that, he didn't even get the chance for some of them because Australia declared on one. They obviously had the winning run chase, and I think there was another shorter innings.
Yeah, there was. I can't remember if it was day 2 or day 3 though.
Yeah. Well, I think one was the rained out test, and one was just, they were looking to make a few quick runs, make India bat again. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And the next best bowler in terms of wickets was Pat Cummins. He was very consistent. As I said, his captaincy was absolutely terrific. But pick of the bowlers for Australia. Only played the 3 matches. Some might say, what was he doing not playing the first couple? And, probably tend to agree, but it's very hard when you, on paper, have a very good lineup.
Mm.
He comes in to replace Josh Hazelwood, who not only, isn't a scrub anyway, but was doing pretty good in the first couple of tests, take 6 wickets, average of 13. So, as I said, but honestly, comes in and clicks up at pretty much just as good as average over a longer period of time. Picks up 21 wickets. Absolutely insane. And then, a lot of the supporting cast. Mohammad Siraj, I thought he struggled early on. Again, bowling was a bit orthodox.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I felt like he was just sort of bridging between Bumrah, just holding the ship. But eventually he's got his lines a bit more right. And, I look a bit better. Still very high average for what he would like, but his last half of the test was a lot better than his first half. And then, as I said, Lyon picked up a few wickets here and there. It wasn't a series where spin was going to get played that much, but he was very handy at times. Then, as I said, Pradesh Krishna, for the one match, 6 wickets. I think that was fairly good. And, it's not really much to say about that. As I said, it was very top heavy, but some absolutely insane bowling averages. Just for Bumrah, 3 fifers, 4 twofers, the only one to get multiples of either. And he gets, well, obviously, if you're taking a fifer. Actually, no, I think 4fers and 5fers are on their own. I don't know how that's recorded.
I don't know. I can't give you an answer to that.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure, yeah. I think there's 3 occasions he took literally 4fers, and there's 3 occasions he took literally 5fers. I think if there was a 6fer, there would be like another column, but
I would assume
I'm not
so.
exactly sure.
I don't know.
But yeah, and off a pretty solid economy rate too. Like he wasn't leaking runs. It was pretty much bang standard for test bowling, 2.76. A lot of maidens. And yeah, as I said, considering his strike rate, he wasn't risking a whole lot. But yeah, as I said, the only thing that was scarier is technically Scott Boland, after his 3 matches, ended up with not only a better economy, slightly worse average, I should say. But, pretty much on same. So honestly, you could argue Scott Boland isn't the best bowler in the world. He's not going to be top 3.
Yeah.
But in terms of this particular time and space, you got to imagine that this was the best bowling going on in a particular game that you will see. Well, I'll say all year, if you count this season as this year, summer of cricket and all that. I think it's the best bit of bowling you'll see from 2 separate teams.
Yeah, for sure.
It's absolutely fantastic to watch. And it will be interesting to see how Scott Boland goes out of Australia, because as I said, very unlucky. Sort of the Stuart McGill thing. Stuart McGill used to be a former player for Australia.
Mm-hmm.
He was the second best leg spinner probably in the country, but he never got a game because Shane Warne was the number 1 spinner. And, as I said, Scott Boland, unfortunately, Josh Hazelwood, or sometimes, depending on how they bowl, either Mitchell Starc or Pat Cummings is normally the second on the rack. And, they're just proven players. Scott Boland tends not to do as well outside of Australia. Not to say it's a chump or anything. He's still got absolutely bowling. Fantastic bowling, but it's just like, it's so hard when you're pretty much international level, but you're still not the 4th best bowling option in your country.
Yeah, so it's kind of slim pickings for a bit.
Yeah, no, well, the opposite actually.
Oh, no, I mean
too many pickings.
True. Yeah, true.
I know what you mean though. Like, he's very hard done by, considering the quality of bowling he is and how much of an unknown he is. Because 35 years of age, he's probably got maybe 2 or 3 more years of tours.
At least until
he's not going to be a future option. So you just imagine he's going to be only played when injuries come in, but he's probably a pretty big what if when it comes to
Yeah, the age
international cricket.
the age is the big factor when it comes to Boland, and that's because Test cricket is definitely more favored to younger players because the better legs. Um, but you know, if his Test days do start to not be a thing anymore, I mean, there are other cricket tournaments that he could enter in to
Oh
take
yeah, like
advantage of his
he's
skill set, like the Big Bashes, the ODIs.
yeah, well, he's always been fairly frequent in the Big Bash League. And I think he's played a few international T20s as well. I think
Oh,
we've
and the
flirted him,
T20s. That's right.
yeah, a few times. In fact, yeah, I've got it here. Yeah, we've played him 3 times for 3 wickets. So, yeah, as I said, ODIs, he's played 14. Played a couple of IPLs. And then, yeah, as I said, the 13 test matches, 25 innings, for an insane average of 17.66.
Not bad, actually.
It's
That's pretty
really,
good.
oh, it's honestly in terms of, it'll be one of the best in terms of going around. Like, in terms of for people who have registered over 20 innings, I think it's the best. It's just, obviously other players tend to get picked more.
Yeah.
It's just very weird to come in late as a fast bowler. So yeah, he's got that thing. So as I said, very lethal. Benefited from only ever really playing in Australia. But as I said, very handy player to have, and is just going to be he'll go down as a very decent state level player. Honestly, I don't even think he was as even that lethal in state league. Like, he's really been like more of a battler sort of league player. He's had a couple of very good Sheffield Shield seasons. I will say that. I do vaguely remember. Play for Victoria, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
Victorian.
So yeah, and yeah, as I said, obviously he's just had this insane run where he's just done what Australia's required him to do, and absolutely benefited. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic from Scott Boland. I would say probably the next biggest story behind, I guess Bumrah really, or an Australian maybe like what's his face, Constas, but it was very much a yeah, it was a very strong performance.
A very strong performance player, but hit or miss at times. It's probably the summary you're looking for.
Oh, well, I said not in test level, but like,
Oh,
any other time when we've sort of played him. But
yeah.
as I said, he's just so phenomenal that, I said he's worked his way up, deserved his spot, but, you're obviously looking into pinch, but every time we brought him up, he's absolutely delivered. It's just crazy.
All right, shall.
Especially in those day-nighters as well.
Oh, yeah,
With
yeah.
the pink ball.
100%.
Adds to Australia's dominance in those tests.
Shall we move on to the Women's Ashes?
Yes. So that's just started. Yesterday was the first ODI. I think Blaze, hopefully he has the page open.
I do.
If you don't know the Women's Ashes formats, it's played in 3 separate parts. You start off with 3 ODI games. You then get 3 2020 games. They're all worth a couple of points each. And then the big one, the test. I think that's worth 5 points. It's worth a significantly much more. I think it's 2.5. It might be 4 points. I'm not sure. But basically, whoever accumulates the most amount of points in this, what is it, 18? Oh, sorry, not 18. I can do math. Can I do math?
Give me numbers and I can do the math.
23-day period. I really shouldn't have spent so much time on 18 plus 5, but here we are. Here we are, folks. So yeah, 23 23 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games of cricket. and it started with the England women's versus the Australian women's at North Sydney Oval in Sydney. Australia won fairly convincingly, I'll say, thanks to some absolutely fantastic bowling by the spinners. I've accidentally closed the thing. I'm trying to remember her name. Not Sutherland. Is it?
I don't know.
Ashley Gardner. Ashley Gardner.
There we go. Yep.
Absolutely fantastic spinner by Ashley Gardner. Alana King too also sort of helped, and a few wickets picked up here and there. But the main thing for England, sort of a hard-ish batting surface. Probably should have scored more than 204. And unfortunately, probably the period where the most regret was when Nat Sciver-Brunt and Wyatt Hodge got off in pretty close. Actually, was it Shiva? It might have been Heather Knight, actually. I think it was the captain. Both caught in the deep by Elise Perry, trying to play offside shots to the leg side with not too much reward. There was a few wickets like that throughout the day. And as I said, they just weren't quite ever on top of the bowling, so to speak. Australia were able to put the clamps on because they had lost too many wickets. That was a partnership, I was saying before, where they looked like they were starting to get on top of things again, get a bit of momentum. But as I said, at the end of the day, Australia, pretty good fielding, some pretty terrific bowling, sort of in the run chase. Looked a bit sketchy at behind times. But Alyssa Healy, captain and wicketkeeper, coming into the series with a bit of a sore knee. 70 off 78 bowls, 11 fours, absolutely fantastic knock. And popping up again, as if her bowling wasn't good enough, a cheeky little 42 not out by Ashley Gardner to take her home with Alyssa King. It was looking a bit scary. I'm not going to lie, there was a few quick wickets towards the end. Talia McGrath got out fairly easily. Sutherland, and then King gets dropped by, I think, Eccleston. And at that point, they were about maybe 30 away. So they would have been looking for 7 down, chasing 30. So, it could have been a bit closer. The run chase itself was all very controlled. They were never in danger of falling short of the runs. It was just, they were thinking, with a bit of good bowling, sort of chucked away their wickets. If they chucked away their wickets, they might have been in a bit of trouble. But luckily, Alana got us home. I think she hit the winning runs with a 4. Again, I probably mentioned Alana King a few times because as a WA fan, she plays for the Perth Scorchers, as well as Beth Many. There's a lot of talent there that, sort of coming from the Big Ashley. I think that was the last major thing they played. So, for a lot of them, going from T20 to the ODIs, probably good for that aggressive mindset. So pretty straightforward game. In terms of the pitch, it was pretty good. Pretty decent atmosphere at North Sydney Oval too. I think it was nearly sold out, if not sold out. I think they were saying on TV. Capacity of 20,000, so that looks about right. It was pretty interesting because some of these pitches aren't the main ones because they're not the big stadiums. The open conditions make a bit interesting because I think that's why the spinners also had a pretty good game. You could get a bit more flight in the air, a bit of the cross-sectional breeze causing a bit of drift. As I said, a pretty good knock. England looking to be a very good team. Had a solid enough T20. Oh, was it? I can't remember. World Cup. I think it was ODR World Cup actually. New Zealand ended up winning. I'm pretty sure that England had a pretty solid campaign, but they're still considered the second best women's cricketing nation going around at the moment, and you could definitely see it. But as I said, it's very much tough to beat Australia at home. I thought they gave it a decent opening knock. As I said, just maybe trying to get a bit more used to the type of spin that you get in Australia, which isn't often that threatening, but sometimes with the extra bounce, You can get caught off, especially when trying to play those higher shots. And yeah, as I said, is looking to be fairly interesting. And I'd like to see how they respond in game 2, which I'm pretty sure is tomorrow in Melbourne.
I
Junction
have
Oval.
the schedule here. Yes, it is. It's out in at Junction Oval, which is out in the western suburbs.
Yep.
I think.
And we might as well go for them all. The third test, Bellerive Oval at Hobart. One of the favourite postage stamps across the world. Never that big a stadium in Hobart, so hopefully plenty of boundary hittings there. Then you get to the opposite, the slightly bigger SCG. Then we go to Monica Oval, Adelaide Oval, put it in the big stadium. And to finish it off, I'm pretty sure it's the first Ashes test at the MCG.
Well, it says only
Question mark?
test, so I would assume it would be the actual
No,
Ashes
well,
test.
that is the test, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because it all counts.
Oh, what are you meaning? Is this the first women's Ashes test at the G?
I think it is actually. I'm not 100% sure. I know that, yeah, as I said, I know that they've expanded into a few bigger ovals. But I might be confusing it. Maybe it's the SCG or it's the first, because I thought they would have played at the MCG before. But again, I'm not that well versed in women's cricket to remember. Like, I put it on, but like, you know what I mean? Honestly, cricket grounds, same with football grounds. Sometimes it'll take me a while to register
Like
which
where it's being
oval
played?
it
Yeah.
actually is. Yeah, exactly. Like some are obvious, like Adelaide Oval. Obviously, you got the scoreboard and all
Yeah,
that.
obviously the
And
bigger ones you can kind of pick up on pretty quickly. But if you're going to say like either of the Tasmanian grounds, or if you're going
yeah,
to like not Blundstone, like Manuka, and then you're going to like Ballarat
yeah,
or something like that.
exactly. But yeah, and honestly, I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I confuse the MCG for the SCG. Like, I know that the MCG doesn't have the oldish stands that the SCG does, but you know, on a bad day, depends how early the game's on. Because obviously in Eastern State times they come up pretty early.
Yeah.
I think the next one tomorrow starts at 7:05 for me, so it's probably what I'll put on straight away.
They do.
But,
The next one is a 10 a.m. game. Jeez.
yeah, because they put it on to follow up with the Big Bash. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
it is a bit weird that it sort of gets priority. Well, not priority, but but I don't overly mind that.
It's like a like a curtain raiser, basically.
Yeah, it sort of is, but like as I said, women's cricket, it's sort of getting to that point where like matches, especially like the Ashes, can sort of stand up a bit more on their own. It's definitely reached another growth period, obviously due to Australia's dominance and players like Elise Perry, Alicia Healy, Beth Mooney. I'm totally blanking. I'm probably forgetting some bowlers. Even Ashley McGrath coming through. As I said, there's a lot of good talent. But a good mix of older talent and younger talent coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Annabelle Sutherland is another fantastic young women bowler. So as I said, I hope it continues to grow. And I'm a bit upset that there won't be a game in Perth, but you can sort of understand with the travelling. They're already going to Tasmania, so it is a bit of an ask with how
there's like
the
such a
is.
short gap between games as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you shrug your shoulders and say fair enough, but I would have tried to make it down if I could.
All right. I believe next on our list is the Big Bash, which should be fairly easy to run through.
Yeah,
So
well,
all that much going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is a bit much going on. I can tell you because I've been watching it fairly consistently, especially now stuck to the shorter form. It's a lot more palatable to watch a whole season because it's only I think it's 10 games each. No, 9 games each. That's right. You play everyone once, and then you have one double up, normally against your rival.
Oh yeah.
So the Sixers obviously plays the Thunder twice. The Stars play the Renegades twice.
Yep.
and then it sort of rotates between the other states because you know they're all the hodgepodge ones. But yeah, as I said, so it's been very good. Some pretty. It's been a better year where there haven't been too many terrible teams. Unfortunately, when I was writing the notes, I said laugh at the stars.
I mean, you
Because
can
among the
laugh at the
stars,
stars. I don't care all that much about the BBL.
yeah, no, well, it's more they started off 0-5, and but they've won their last four, and are currently in the finals as it stands now, which is scary. Um, the Stars are sort of like the franchise in the competition. They get all the star batsmen, all that. Always get a bit of a hodgepodge bowling attack, and always perform under what you would sort of expect. There's always these expectations going into them, and they consistently fall under that. It's always great to see. They're one of the two teams without a BBL title. The other one being the Hobart
So was
Hurricanes.
it
Who are
literally
going
just once the test was over, they got all their cricketers back and they started playing well again?
not quite, because they only really got well, they got Bo Webster back, but he played in a few of their losses early because he was only called up for the last test.
Oh yeah.
Um, so they're big players. Marcus Stoinis,
Hmm.
Glenn Maxwell. Obviously, he had a huge innings last night. Pretty much won the game off his own bat.
Yep.
Just over a century. Well, mate, no, just under, but it was like 70 off something. And yeah, as I said, pretty much won them the game. Last game over the Renegades. So yeah, as I said, in terms of their bowling, I can't even remember who they have. They have at least one good bowler, but the rest are sort of meh. Lacking a few spinners. Yeah, I've yeah, so but honestly, Ben Duckett, their main international,
Hmm.
he's fairly decent. He's had an okay season, but yeah, as I said, they've just been very variable, to say the least. Especially, when it comes to the only player that's consistently scored runs is Stoinis, and he's only really ever scored 30s. But yeah, as I said, they're just variable. I know Big Bash cricket can get a bit that way, but yeah. So that's how they are. But really, the biggest thing to note is the two best looking teams at the moment being the Sydney Sixers and the Hobart Hurricanes. Hobart Hurricanes looking to try and get their first premiership in the Big Bash. They've made a finals, I think, a couple of times.
Hmm.
Once against Perth, another against Brisbane, I think, in one of the early ones. Haven't won it. Obviously, they're one of the weird teams. They got like a very big home ground advantage because they play on a postage stamp. So they never technically have to have the best bowling lineup because it's just very easy to rack up scores even if you're bowling well. But as I said, they've got a fairly good team this year. Always blank on like players. But yeah, I'm pretty sure about Hurricanes. They got Tim Payne, I know that. Who are their players? I need to look it up. Nathan Ellis, very good bowler. Where's players? Here we are. Oh, Tim David, international star, having an absolutely fantastic season. He's one of the biggest hitters in the competition.
Hmm.
He's come in late in innings at times and absolutely won it off his own bat. Ben McDermott, the wicketkeeper, very fantastic. Mitch Owen, a very good all-rounder. And yeah, as I said, so, very strong basis of a team. And then you got the Sydney Thunder, the old guard, the other big team apart from the Perth Scorchers that's won a lot of titles, led by Moises Henriques, one of the best captains in T20 you'll see. So solid with the bat. He can launch at it, but oftentimes his best innings are when he just peppers away, lets other people go at it. A few other batters that are having a really good year. Jordan Silk, obviously sometimes is being known as pretty much one of the best fielders in the competition, and a bit unders with his batting. But this year he's sort of played a very good, had a very good year.
Hmm.
And yeah, so their bowling attack, Sean Abbott, Nathan Murphy, Ben Dwarshuis, and someone else who I'm forgetting who's pretty good as well. I'm always terrible, with franchises who actually plays for who. It all sort of just washes over me. But yeah, as I said, so Sydney Sixers, they're looking to probably the team to beat still, but you never know. And as for the team I support, Perth Scorchers, unfortunately, yeah, a bit all over the place. Their bowling's sort of gone a bit downhill. They used to win off their bowling alone. AJ Ty, one of my favourite players, he's getting a bit older. He's getting tonked around a bit. But yeah, Jai Richardson, he's just having to end his season with a bit of shoulder surgery. Absolutely great young player, but like most Perth Scorchers or WA-based young bowling talent, just gets injured one time too many. Probably would play a few more international games if his body was a bit more right.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the surgery will allow him to do that in the future. Big Bash is just Big Bash, so hopefully, that will help his international career out. But yeah, as I said, Lance Morris, Tim Kelly, all gone for a few runs. They lost their spinners. Ashton Agar's been bowling fairly well, but Ashton Turner refusing to go to him in the clutch moments. He's been going more pace when they've needed to restrict him, which has burnt the Scorchers at some times.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't liked the captaincy of the Scorchers this year, but it is what it is. But the bowling attack definitely not as good as it used to be. But yeah, as I said, so to sum up the ladder, there's almost a game each. Scorchers have 2 more games and the Strikers have 2 more games. Almost anyone can make finals, except the Renegades can even make finals. So I'd have to have a lot of luck, but they could. So yeah, but the first 4 teams advance. I'm pretty sure the top 2 teams play each other, and the bottom 2. But the top 2 teams get a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one advances to the finals, I'm pretty sure, and the loser of that game then faces the winner of Thunder and Stars,
Mm-hmm.
and then the winner of that game turns into the finals.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
So yeah, it's pretty good. They've had a few years where they've made it top 5, but honestly, I think it's just better to get it wrapped up. Normally the worst seasons have gone where it's gone a bit too long. Some of the international players get called up. So obviously this season they're trying not to lose player to the Sri Lanka tour, because they'll get called off probably a week beforehand. So yeah, so hopefully they'll get. I think they're done and dusted by next week. So pretty sure next weekend. So hopefully everyone gets to keep their stars. A few of the internationals have gone home. I think some of the England players and a few of the New Zealand players have gone, but most of the Australian talent are there. And if Steve Smith keeps on his form, yeah, as I said, because I forgot to mention.
According to the fixture, the last game is the 19th of January.
Okay, so it's the end of this week. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because then probably the players go to India to prepare, because they're going to India to prepare for the Sri Lanka test.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, as I said, so Steve Smith, if he can continue his batting form, it's very hard to see the Sixers lose this. Never used to be the best T20 player, Steve Smith, but he's gone on an absolute rampage the last few years. He's gone into the competition, and it's a pleasure to watch. So I suggest if you want to see some really good T20 playing, try and catch the Sixers in a finals. Hopefully they face the Hobart Hurricanes. I'm actually hoping the Hurricanes win their first championship. I have liked their teams over the years. Sometimes performed a bit under, but yeah, it'll be good to see a new team go into the fray of what do you call it? Big Bash winners.
I mean, it's pretty similar to how we were talking about the AFLW, how it's kind of just the same 3 teams just rotating around.
Yeah, well, it basically is not even 3 teams, Sixers and Scorchers. Actually, I think the Heat have now won a couple of ones. So there's only 3 teams to win multiple. One of them's won 2, one of them's won 5, one of them's won 6. So I think it's 6 for the Scorchers, 5 for the Sixers.
Well, there you go.
So chance for Sixers to even the ledger, which, adds to the rivalry between Sixers and Scorchers. But honestly, for how dominant the Scorchers have been, it will be good to see other states get a fair shake because, yeah, WA are pretty lucky when it comes to state leagues. They've often done pretty well, so.
All right,
The,
next on our list is the NBL, which I believe that you are already prepped for, at least physically and note-wise.
physically, I had a pretty bad jump shot. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I could take the court these days. Honestly,
I mean, you've already got the jersey on. You may as well represent them.
I do, but like, it does. I do wonder like how many games it would take me to actually get a basket in the NBL, and I'm guessing it would be like so long, and the team that I would play for would take so many losses. But you know, I might be able to do it in a season if I'm lucky. But anyway, the NBL. I'm just gonna like breeze through it. Hopefully Blaze can show off the standings.
I've got them up.
As I stand now. Currently Illawarra looking to be pretty dominant. They've won once in the 2000s, looking pretty strong for this year. But there are a few other contenders. But its season is wrapping to a close. So I will go through the way that their finals is structured. They've got a play-in tournament. So the top two teams, as it currently stands, are now Perth and Illawarra. If that stays by the end of the season, I think there's about maybe 5 or 6 more games left each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll get a first round bye, and then Melbourne, Sydney, Southeast Melbourne, and Tasmania will essentially have a single elimination tournament to advance to the playoffs, which are already kind of the playoffs. It's a bit weird, but basically it'd still be like a three round final series. It's just that Illawarra and Perth don't have to play in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get a bye if Perth manage to stay there. I'm not sure that they will, to be honest, but they are again doing quite well. But yeah, so but basically, I really all I can say about the NBL is I've been watching a few games, and it's absolutely insane. Again, the MVP of the season is looking to be Bryce Cotton. I don't know how much you've heard of him, but he is a local legend in Perth. And he is, what was it? I think he was the first player to go back-to-back 50-point games in the NBL. Maybe he was 40. But
Either
yeah,
way, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, leading the NBL in points scored. I should get the stats. League leaders. I think it's with. It's in the high 20s or low 30s. Yeah, 27 points per game. The next best is Kendrick David for the LA 36ers with 25.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as I said, he's an absolute beast. He's won a few games off of their beat, and considering how bad, because Perth used to be a team known for its stellar defense, but that's now gone down the wayside. They're now a shooting team, score a lot of points thanks to Bryce Cotton, but also score a lot against. I don't think they're the most rounded team. I'm not sure if they go deep in the playoffs again. They don't really need another premiership again. They've gotten so many in the NBL. I think it's like 12, maybe? It's ridiculously high. 10 wins, 6 losses for NBL championships.
Okay, makes sense.
The next best is Adelaide, Melbourne United with 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
Sydney with 5-3. Adelaide with 4-4. So yeah, so a tiny bit of diversity, but again, excited for Illawarra. They've made the I said they have won once in 2021, but they've also lost 3 times in finals, once in 2005, 2010, 2017. Obviously, Illawarra, it's a growing suburb region, I guess.
It's just it's Western Sydney mostly.
Yeah, but like the important thing is that in the NBL, like not only have there not really been a good sort of non-city franchise, a lot of them have gone out in the league. Obviously a lot of them being the Gold Coast ones, Townsville Crocs being another one. You know, so For them to win it, for them to be the first like non-major city team to win multiple premierships, probably will be very good for the league.
One of the
So
few things I do
I
actually know about the NBL is that the Southeast Melbourne
think,
Phoenix were a team at one point, and then they disappeared for a long time, and now they've come back.
yeah, rising from the ashes, I guess.
Well, that's why they're called the
I don't think
Phoenix.
I don't think they were the Phoenix back
No, they
then.
weren't.
I
They were
think
under
that
a
was
different name, but
something
they were
else.
still Southeast Melbourne.
I think they were like the Wizards or something.
Yeah, it was like really obscure. I can't remember the name specific,
Yeah,
but they definitely weren't Phoenix. But I guess Phoenix is a
that,
rebrand, makes a lot of sense.
yeah, but yeah. So Melbourne big enough to get two teams. I meant, look, I'm not sure if that's actually true, but like behind Perth, I think Melbourne are the next biggest supporters of the NBL. They tend to get fairly good crowds there. So,
I
you
mean,
know what?
we have the arenas for it. Might as well use them.
You do, and I said that is the drag. Like Perth fills out RAC Arena fairly well, but our next best basketball arenas don't really hold a candle to anything. Like you'll be lucky to get 10,000 in. So yeah, so that's probably the reason why Perth doesn't have two teams, even though they are such a dominant, um, you know, sporting state in terms of basketball. But yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that. And, because I've been mentioning a lot in terms of Australia, I will talk a couple of things about the NBA. The first being is that Paddy Mills is the first Australian to make 1,000 games in the NBL, which in the NBA, I should say, which is absolutely fantastic. He used to play for the San Antonio Spurs, won an NBA championship with them. I'm like 90% sure. I hope. I'm pretty sure that was the same timing of their 2012 premiership title. And yeah, as I said, currently was a bit lost in the league, got picked up by the Utah Jazz, who are doing fairly well, and I think has played like a few games this season. I've got some stats that I brought up at the time, but they've played a few more games of that. But he's currently played 10 games with the Jazz and just sort of doing a bit of, a bit of a support role these days, but, absolutely fantastic for him. Obviously, the flip side of that, he hasn't overly played in the NBL that much. You've got a few that have been a bit hybrid, like Matthew Dellavedova. Probably, I don't know if he could have got there because he never really joined the NBA that early on in his career. I think he was 24, 25 when he did, joining the Cavs. But anyway, so yeah, as I said, Dellavedova is now sort of retired from the NBA, currently just playing in the NBL for the Melbourne United, I want to say. One of the Melbourne teams.
I know. I'm pretty sure
Um,
he's Melbourne based, so it's got to be one of the two.
yeah. But anyway, so yeah, as I said, so absolutely, absolutely great. I should have put Australia NBL. Oh, Australia NBL. I'm just like looking up the most games in NBA.
You're all good. I'm just bringing up information for our next topic. Whilst you're doing this.
Yeah. History. Yeah, okay. I think Luke Longley is actually the next longest. Um, it doesn't say how many games, but it's what is it? A 10-year career. Where is it? Yeah, 567 games.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, actually, I might get it from Basketball Reference. Here we go. Now I've got it. Okay. It must not be counting. Here it says Paddy Mills has only played 905, but yeah, as I said, it must be like either preseason games or something else as well. But
Oh yeah, it might be counting
anyway,
like preseason and stuff.
I don't know. But anyway, he's played 1,000 games. Kyrie Irving, which is like the most technically Australian you can get, is not really. He's never played for Australia, but he was born here. I'm sure he plays for now. He used to play for the Cavs. I'm pretty sure he plays for the Nets or someone now. Maybe it's Dallas. I can't remember. One of the most famous flat earthers going around in the NBA. And Joey Ingles, of course, big Joey Ingles, veteran of the league, 7-12 games. I think he might play for Orlando, the team I support. He used to. He played for a season. Okay, he played for a season in Orlando, then has gone to the Wolves. So very much a fringe player at this point. So yeah, so Patty Mills, I don't think that record will be beaten for a hot minute. A lot of the young NBA talent of recent times have sort of either been a bit injured, a bit prospective. Obviously, you have Josh Giddey and the other one going around at the moment. I've forgotten.
Dyson Daniels?
Yeah, I think so. I think he plays in the Knicks or something. Again,
because I know he's still
NBA not
very young in terms of being in this league.
Yeah. Where is it? Dyson Daniels, yeah. Oh, you got Jack Landale might. Probably not though. Oh yeah, Josh Green as well. 256 games. Dante Exum, obviously with the injuries, probably won't get up there.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Simmons, probably one of the more infamous
he's
players
extremely
in the
infamous
NBA
now.
At the moment. He has sort of a bit of a resurgence, but like not in terms of scoring. Like apparently he's been defensively okay this season, but his scoring has just turned to absolute arse. And obviously playing in that big market, he's had a lot of heat put on him. But yeah, so I don't see Patty Mills' record being broken for a long while yet. Hopefully one of the youngsters gets up in there. We've still got a fair few rookies as well that just joined the NBA. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Luke Travers as well, former Perth players. I've always happy to see him in the NBA playing for the Cavs, who are doing very well this season. It's very weird. I haven't put the standings in just because, I don't really have anything to talk about too much. But,
no, that's right. I found them and brought them up. Not that there isn't really much that I understand. It's all just a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of an interesting season where a lot of the old super teams have sort of gone down. It's a bit of a changing of the guard because, yeah, as said, historically, it's been a bit ironic because, like, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the best team in the West at the moment, used to have what was called a really big. They had a team that they thought were going to like bring in multiple championships. Players you might know: Kevin Durant,
yep,
Russell Westbrook,
yep,
and Steve Adams, the Kiwi.
Oh yeah.
So that were their big three. Actually, I think Steve Adams might have been a bit later, but either way. They had, a really big core. They all split up. But it's sort of funny now how, like, they're all sort of in teams that aren't going too well. And then, just through decent drafting, I should say, like, the Oklahoma City Thunder haven't really tanked as other teams have tended to do. Like, they've had some few bad seasons, but, they've been semi-competitive for the talent or roster on the talents on their roster. So, it's interesting to see them do well. The team I support, Orlando Magic, it's amazing to see them do all right. They've been injured to buggery, but, they've done really well. And, obviously, probably the most interested for the, like, Australians following along, from the vague knowledge, the whole process, Trust the Process, Philadelphia, predicted to be really well this season. It was sort of thought that this was the conclusion of the whole tank process that went on for like nearly 10 years, and they're doing absolutely arse, which, is a bit of bias, but confirms my theory that tanking is like never the solution. Like even mediocre franchises can get back in it, even if you're like, oh, it's not the star talent, but, as I said, talent never tends to develop when you tank, and it's harder to smooth some of the cracks because eventually you just lose all your role players. You're only accessing those young players, and we've seen teams like with a bit of young talent, set for 1 or 2 seasons, pick up some good talent, pick up some wily veterans, and do pretty well, which is essentially like the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
not so much the Boston Celtics. They're just always good. But they're in the mix this year. And what else? Like the Memphis Grizzlies, Denver Nuggets. They're sort of, in between. They've won a few championships, but, they've got that mix of young and old at the moment, doing quite well. So, yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Next on our list, I believe, is the NFL that you wanted to touch on.
Just a little bit. So, I forgot to give you the links, but
No, I've got it. I got the division standings. So
okay, yeah,
that will do.
So their games have been going today. Unfortunately, in terms of the Australians, there's only a couple in the playoffs. One is both teams have won already. So while I'm saying this is accurate, Daniel Falil plays for the Baltimore Ravens as a tackle. He's had a fairly decent season in his second year, I'm pretty sure. And then probably a veteran at this point, Jordan Mailata, Polynesian Australia, plays for Philadelphia Eagles as the offensive tackle. While their offensive line hasn't been as good this year for the Philadelphia Eagles, he's been a pretty strong part of that. Is a really solid player. Just missed out being All-Pro, which is essentially the All-Australian in the NFL. And yeah, it's really good. So I just thought just touch on the NFL because I do watch a fair bit of it. A couple of games have gone on. Nothing too exciting. Everything's sort of gone to plan except for the first match where the Houston Texans beat the LA Chargers, which is sort of funny because, like most LA teams that aren't actually based in LA, I mean, they kind of are. They always relocate. They tend to do pretty badly. They thought this was the year that they weren't going to get, ashamed in the playoffs. Oftentimes they've had really good seasons, but even just missed the playoffs or bowed out very quickly. But yet again, Houston Texans, who are the way the NFL works, if you win on your division, you get into the playoffs. The Houston Texans won their divisions, but the other three teams were absolute garbage. I should know because the Indianapolis Colts, the team I support, almost made the playoffs, and they were pretty terrible. So no one expecting them to win. They end up winning, going on to the next round in a pretty unexpected game. Not that exciting. They won fairly convincingly in the end. So that was a bit different. The Baltimore Ravens ended up cleaning up the Steelers. They're not quite Essendon territory. Who's another team that's lost a lot of elimination finals, but recently?
Recently, probably. Oh, I was gonna say GWS, but no, they make it fairly through.
Yeah.
The Doggies?
I don't know. Could be. But either way, they've got a coach. He's never had a losing record. But they've also not won a playoff game in 6 years. So it's very bittersweet for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the moment. Sort of going through a few quarterbacks, few positional changes, led by one of the best defensive players in the competition, TJ Watt. But yeah, a lot of sporadic talent. And then this morning, what were the games today? I gotta look them up. What was it? Oh yeah, the Bills and Broncos. Again, the Buffalo Bills, probably one of the better teams. One of the teams more likely to make the Super Bowl. Sort of just ever since they've expanded the NFL to include an extra playoff teams, you've had teams like the Denver Broncos, who aren't actually really that good. But, impressive season for them. First rookie quarterback to pass to a rookie receiver in the playoffs. They got that record. Apart from that, got absolutely stomped. But fantastic year by them when no one thought they were going to do that well. And the Buffalo Bills, they're playoff veterans at this point. They're looking to get that monkey off their back. Finally beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. You've probably heard of him. One of the players from the Kansas City Chiefs is dating Taylor Swift.
Yes, I'm fully aware of the Kansas City
Travis
Chiefs
Kelce.
at this point.
So, they're pretty much... they've got a few players that are actually hateable. If you... Like most NFL teams, they've got a few players that have committed literal crimes that sort of,
just get swept under the rug. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's sort of hard because, as I said, like, I'm not sure if it's actually more than most sports league. I think it is worse because they get a bit more away with it because of how big it is. But there's also a lot of players in the NFL, so you're going to get a few more of those sort of players on the teams. You never like to see it, but anyway. Um, but yeah, as I said, so the Bills eventually, when they'll face up against the Chiefs, I don't think they do. I think it's Ravens and the Chiefs, and then the Bills will play the Texans, but I could be wrong about that. Um, Again, I'm not going to go too into details. I'm just going to like cover what's happened and who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. The other game to happen, the Eagles very comfortably have handled the Green Bay Packers. Again, Jordan Mailata's team, the Philadelphia Eagles, pretty much just did them solid. Green Bay Packers, third in their division, in an absolutely insane division. I'm not sure if you can bring up the what would they be? The NFC North? Yeah.
Yes, they're part of the North bracket, I think.
Yeah, so if you see their bracket, it was the Detroit Lions at 15-2,
Oh
the
yeah, I found
Minnesota
it.
Vikings at 14-3, and the Green Bay Packers at like 12-5, I think. So all three teams making the playoffs, and the Packers are the first to go. Um, but yeah, pretty tough ask for them, and probably the most entertaining game. The Buccaneers, again, sort of like the Houston Texans, sort of the best teams from a fairly weak division, exciting at times. If you know a bit of NFL storylines, you'll know how interesting the Baker Mayfield storyline is, because he was the savior for the Cleveland Browns,
Mhm.
made the playoffs with them for the first time in ages, then gets cast aside. The Browns hire quarterback who shall not be named, who has various charges, alleged charges up
Alleged
against him.
charges, but yeah.
If you know, you know. But yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into it. So yeah, Cleveland Browns do absolutely crap. And then, Tampa Bay pick him up, going from the post Tom Brady era. They win him a Super Bowl. Um, plays a couple of years after that. Makes the playoffs, but not too relevant. Actually, I think they might have missed the playoffs the last season with Tom Brady. I can't quite remember. And then, yeah, as I said, Baker Mayfield just comes and does well. So a bit of resurgence from him. There's a few quarterbacks like that. And again, up against rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels with the Washington Commanders, who historically have been the absolute butt munch of the NFL, owned by one of the worst owners imaginable, pretty much scum human being, Dan Snyder.
Yep.
If you can look him up if you
No,
want to
I
see,
know
but like,
exactly who he is, but
yeah, is
it's not a
not
good
the greatest
person.
human being going around. Um, and it's sort of nice because like he's forced to sell the team, and now they're sort of free. Ends up winning the season 13-5. I think it's the first winning record they've had in a while. And yeah, win a playoff game under him. So, good to see. Not too much expectations. I think they're going to have to, because there's a game tomorrow, so it's unsure whether they'll face either the Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles. It depends what happens against the Rams and the Vikings.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, no, it would be either the Detroit Lions or the Minnesota Vikings, I should say. Depends who wins out of the Rams and the Vikings. But yeah, in that game, another sort of interesting one is the quarterback, Sam Darnold, for the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota expecting to go absolutely nowhere this season. And they had an old Jets QB, the New York Jets. If you don't know, they're an ass football team. Like, the good thing about the NFL is like the bad teams are sort of funny, and the Jets sort of embody that a lot. And if you've, been a bit on the cusp of NFL news, you'll probably know they got Aaron Rodgers, controversial QB quarterback for other reasons,
Mhm.
mainly vaccine denialism and having a big ego. Goes to the New York Jets, who are one QB away from being good. Tears his ACL at the start of the season. That's when Darnold took over, took the Jets to a mediocre season. Aaron Rodgers comes back, Darnold gets traded to the Vikings. The Vikings lose their quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who took them to the playoffs. And you know what? They recovered absolutely beautiful, proved that there was a bit more system to them, and they should beat the LA Rams. LA Rams, headed by, they got a few good older players, picked up a few good recruits in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they've had like bugger all draft picks, they traded all their draft picks so they could get their quarterback Matthew Stafford. They won a premiership Super Bowl with him 3 years ago, maybe 2. So yeah, so it's like, yeah, it should be an interesting matchup, but the Vikings should win that. LA's been solid, but not quite that great. And yeah, the other two teams, obviously, I've talked a bit about them. The Chiefs, and if you haven't heard, one of the best feel-good franchise stories of the year is probably the Detroit Lions. If you know about the Detroit Lions in like American history or like, references, again, historically been a very arse team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the first teams in the NFL, one of the original teams, haven't won a Lombardi Trophy, like the Arizona Cardinals, and I think the Minnesota Vikings as well. I'm not sure if Minnesota was like an original team, but they were very early. Haven't won one. And last 4 seasons, they've gone from 3, 13, and 1 to 9 and 8, 12 and 5, 15 and 2, all at the helm of Dan Campbell, one of the most funnest and ballsiest coaches you'll see going around. He absolutely loves taking aggressive risks, but he's very much the future of positive coaches, because like some of them you'll see, they'll make decisions and sort of just shrug the shoulders when it goes wrong. Sometimes blame players, but he's very much a ownership sort of player. He's always on me. And for the Detroit Lions, the coach that they had before, Matt Patricia, was from like the New England school of things. Like in the AFL, how when successful coaches win premierships, all their assistant coaches get pinched.
Yep.
And some of them never actually do that well. Obviously you've got the Dimitri, you've got the Alistair Clarkson tree.
Yep.
And, a few more than that. It's sort of, he was one from the Bill Belichick tree. He was the coach of the Patriots when Tom Brady was there.
Mm-hmm.
Currently semi-retired. Anyway, all of them have been absolute arse. Matt Patricia has been like one of the ones that was the epitome of, I've been under a really analytic coach that's been known for being a bit of a hard ass. I'm just going to be unnecessarily mean and have like no organizational skills. Fell into absolute shambles. And then there's just like middle-aged, basically like looks like a high school coach dad. Very positive, always up and about. Probably would put on the pads and run out himself if they ran out of players. Like, he's just like that sort of dude.
Fair enough.
And, takes the Lions to, I think, their best season ever. I don't think they've had a better season than that. But, yeah. So it's absolutely fantastic to see. They do have a lot of defensive injuries. I'm not sure if they'll make the Super Bowl. I think from the NFL side of things, because obviously in the Super Bowl, the winner of the AFC and the winner of the NFC face off together.
Mm-hmm.
For the NFC, I think it's probably between the Lions and the Eagles. I'd be very surprised if any other team made the Super Bowl, but who knows? And I think for the AFC, I think there's 3 contenders. I think the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills all have a fair shot. I think the Chiefs are the most likely to. They're a dynasty team. Sort of changed a bit. They're a bit defensively better than they have been in other years. But, sort of just been... They're like Hawthorn when they were, at the end of their three-peat where they were, like, winning games, but, like, they'd have patches in the season that look pathetic and, like, you'd rule them out and then they'll just win the premiership. So, that's sort of where they're at. But
Fair enough.
I definitely like the Buffalo Bills. Very rounded team, solid defensive players. And the Ravens, of course, picked up one of the best running backs in the league to put to their offense, King Henry. If you want to see good running back play, just watch his highlights. He's an absolute beast. Used to play for the Tennessee Titans. That's a division, so I've watched a fair bit of him over the years, and he is an absolute beast. Almost it's weird because like sometimes you watch NFL and like you see the tackling, and you're so used to like AFL tackling, and you think like they really should tackle a like a bit better.
Yeah.
Like, I think the tackling's like a slightly lower standard than you would see in the AFL. But oh my lord, I don't think like half the AFL would be able to tackle Derrick Henry. Built like a brick, you know what house. It was like when Buddy Franklin went on his hair. Like when he had the space, like it's not gonna be like Dustin Martin and like stiff arm from neutral. But you give him a run, and it's just so hard to tackle such a big body. And so as I said, he is one of the players to watch. But yeah, so yeah, as I said, I'll just say I hope that the Lions win the Super Bowl. They'll be the team that I'm cheering for. Honestly, I'm gonna say the Bills win it, but I'm not really sure. It is probably the Chiefs. Like that's a sensible bet, but I don't know. There's something about the Bills that makes me want to believe. So, yeah, that's my NFL prediction, I guess.
If the Chiefs win, they go back to back, right?
Yes, they will.
Yeah, I have a feeling they won last season.
So they've been in 3 in a row. They won.
They won last year, lost the year before.
Back, I think.
Did they win 2023 or 2022? Sorry.
I remember. Like, I can't remember if it's in a row. I remember where they beat the Bengals. So I think it was Rams, Chiefs, but I could be misremembering.
I know they won last year at the very least. That's what I remember.
2022 Super Bowl.
Or technically the 2023 Super Bowl.
That's right. 2022 was the Rams beating the Bengals. Obviously, like Kansas City can't face the Bengals in the Super Bowl because they're both in the same Thingo League. So, which is the weird thing about the Super Bowl is you don't get to see like classic rivalries, like But yeah, what I'm thinking of is they've been in 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls.
Okay, I did just look it up as well. If the Chiefs win this, it's a 3-peat.
Yeah, okay. I thought so.
Yeah, so the 2023 Super Bowl, they beat the Eagles.
Eagles, that's right, and the 49ers.
And then the 49ers last year, yeah.
Yeah, the 49ers sort of did a Collingwood, except with a few more injuries. I guess it's not really Collingwood because they didn't even win, but yeah. It's a bit sad for the 49ers, but yeah, they didn't even come close. Bit of a premiership hangover. Sorry, not a Super Bowl hangover for them.
Super Bowl hangover. Yeah, that's happens in all sports.
Yeah, it does. Anyway, do you want to briefly, do you want to go through the tennis? I'll let you do some talking.
I do.
This is definitely not my strong point.
Yeah, I mean, technically this isn't my strong point either, but the Australian Open is currently going on right here in Melbourne. Day 2 of the singles tournaments are currently being played right now, but I'm going to go through the day 1 tournaments. If you want to look at the day 2 results, I'll just quickly show them up here, but I won't talk about them because there is a lot and I do not have them in my notes, but these are the day 2 information. I'm just going to quickly scroll through them. If you want to pause and take a look at anything specific, there you go. But the day 1 tournaments are, and I'll start with the men's singles. So Norway's Casper Ruud beat Spain's Jorn Munar in 5 sets, moving him on to day 2. Germany's Alexander Zverev, one of the best men's tennis players currently in the world, beat France's Lucas Pouille in, I assume that's how it's pronounced. Again, a lot of these things I'm probably going to get wrong. Don't mind me. In 3 sets. France's Arthur Fils beat Finland's Otto Virtanen in 4 sets. Czech Republic's Yuri Lecheka beat Australia's Lee Tu in 4 sets. Japan's Kei Nishikori beat Brazil's Diogo Monteiro in 5 sets. France's Hugo Humbert beat Italy's Matteo Giganti. Let me make sure it's scrolling. In 3 sets. USA's Riley Opelka beat Belgium's Gauthier Onklin in 4 sets. Czech Republic's Tomas Pachak beat India's Sumit Nagal in 3 sets. France's Hugo Gaston beat Australia's Omar Jasika in 4 sets. France's Quentin Hallis beat Australia's Adam Moulton in 5 sets. Spain's Pedro Martinez beat Italy's Luciano Daderi in 2 sets. Daderi retired early, I assume due to injury. Lebanon's Hadi Habib beat China's Yu Bu in 3 sets. And for the women's singles, China's Kim Wenzhang beat Romania's Anka Todoni in 2 sets. Belarus's Ariana Sabalenka, being the world number 1 women's tennis champion right now, beat the USA's Sloane Stephens in 2 sets. Croatia's Donna Vekic beat France's Diane Parry in 2 sets. Russia's Anna Blinkova beat Australia's Daria Seville in 3 sets. Russia's Mira Andreeva beat Czech Republic's Marie Buskova in 2 sets. Spain's Paula Badosa beat China's Xinyu Wang in 2 sets. Canada's Leila Fernandez beat Ukraine's Yulia Starodubtseva, I'm gonna butcher that completely, in 2 sets. Germany's Tatiana Maria beat USA's Bernarda Pera in 2 sets. Spain's Jessica Buzaz Maniero beat UK's Sene Katal in 2 sets. Spain's Cristina Buxa beat France's Chloe Paquette in 2 sets. Netherlands' Susan Lemons beat Slovenia's Veronika Erjevec in 2 sets. And Denmark's Clara Tausen beat Czech Republic's Linda Noskova in 3 sets. So some of the higher ranked players, some of the higher ranked men's players like Demonor, Djokovic, players like that, as far as I'm aware, they didn't pull out. I think they don't play in day one. I think it all depends on how they qualify, first of all, because there are qualifiers before the official days. So as far as I'm aware, they kind of move straight on to like day 2, and I believe they're playing possibly tonight. Don't quote me on this. Tonight, as of recording, by the way, today's the 13th.
Yeah. Actually, it's weird because I think it must go off bodies of work because I just sent you a link to the seeds and all that. But Jannik Sinner is apparently like the number 1 seed, and he had to play in the first round. And apparently he's facing in round 2 an Australian. I've never heard of him before. Tristan Schoolcarty. I don't know. 23 years old, unseeded. But yeah, so I'm really not that sure. But you're right, Djokovic didn't play round 1.
Yeah, I figured Djokovic wouldn't play round 1. But yeah, I mean, if him and the Demon didn't have to play, then they might be playing tonight. I don't know. I don't even know if they're playing at all in the Australian Open, I'll be honest. I would assume they are. Yeah, I don't think they're injured.
They've got the seeds in, and I saw Djokovic at the tennis, Big Bash.
Oh,
he was watching the Stars and Renegades.
They're probably playing then.
Apparently, Djokovic's son is a big cricket fan, so
well,
I'm not sure who you would go for. Like, I'm not really sure about the Serbian connection. But...
I doubt they would go. I doubt they would support England because everyone hates England.
Yeah, especially Europeans.
Very much so.
So yeah, as I said, who knows?
But yeah, like with the retirement, with the retirement of the former number 1s. I've already blanked on their names. We all know who they are.
Nadal, Federer.
Thank you.
Even Murray.
Yeah, Murray retired a lot longer ago, but yeah, he was past couple of years still. But yeah, Nadal and Federer retaring more recently. That has opened up like the top 5 kind of rankings to a lot of much younger players. Like I'm sure words are hard. Djokovic will jump back up there at some point. The Demon, our bright star at the moment in tennis, will definitely probably get back up there. But at the moment, like it's very much open in terms of like talent. Zverev and Medvedev are probably the 2 more well-known ones currently in the top 5.
Yeah.
And then for the women's top seeds, Sabalenka has held the number 1 spot for I think a couple years now, ever since Ash Barty retired.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're looking at the women's stuff, because I was a bit curious because I was like, oh, who are the win? Because obviously Serena's retired. I'm pretty sure. She
Yes.
always sometimes pops back, but I'm like, so I was like thinking, and I was like, oh, Naomi Osaka, like I'm pretty sure she should be seated, but she's playing. She's just coming back from maternity, so she's not in the list. So, but she is playing, so it'll be interesting to see her return to tennis. I'm pretty sure that this is the first major event that she's back into. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe
Anyway,
so.
I don't know much about tennis, but I still remember Naomi Osaka beating Serena a couple of times. So,
Yeah. And Naomi
and
Osaka is one of Japan's big bright stars. I'm pretty sure she is like Japan's best at the moment.
I mean, she was world number one for a while, so yeah. But yeah, Sabalenka I know is very good as well. I just don't know much about tennis, and don't even ask me about doubles because like then it's just too much for me. But yeah, I'll try and keep up as much as I can. But
It's
yeah,
like cricket. Is it kind of just one of those sports where you can just have on in the background and still kind of know what's going on?
yeah. But I feel like you just, and I say this someone who watches too much sport. I think like once you get sports that go over like the 4 hour mark, which tennis can sometimes do, like 3. I don't know how long's the average tennis match. It's longer than my attention span anyway.
It's yeah,
And
yeah.
when that happens, there's only so many
It's
sports
depending on if you're
you
watching
can
men's or
watch.
women's, it could go well over 2-3 hours.
Yeah, well, actually, that I'm more likely to watch the women's game because the game's shorter,
Yeah, they are.
and as I said, the momentum you still get momentum swings as well. Like you can see why for the men's because like then the serve gets a bit more dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Serena games would often go so quickly because she was such a good server. That it was very hard to fight back that advantage. It's a wonder why that she was probably the most dominant tennis player comparative to their competition ever. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So yeah, as I said, so I do like to watch the winning games. That's why I know a bit about Sabalenka, but I just haven't watched tennis in a while, so I try to watch a few games. Give it a chance.
And then last but not least, or you more specifically, want to touch on the A League, as that is currently also going on.
I don't really want to touch on the A-League.
Look,
Look,
it's in the
I'm gonna
list.
say
We
these
should
last two
cover it.
sports. It's summer of sports. I'm not that passionate about either the next two things coming up, but I thought I'd better touch on it. A bit of state pride. And the A-League, it has just undergone a bit of an
Oh yeah, I
expansion.
forgot
I
you put that
forgot
in
to
there.
brought Auckland FC in the mix, and they're doing quite well. Can't name any player. I honestly can't name you a soccer player for the men's in the A-League at the moment. But that's just me. But in terms of who's doing well, Melbourne City doing really well. Adelaide United, Auckland FC, Macarthur, Western United, Sydney. But I think they get around 30 matches per year. So they're about halfway through the season. In terms of my team, Perth Glory, not doing too great. I only really remember that the Sockers was on because I was watching the news and they told us that the Perth Glory had lost 6 at home in a row after coughing up 2 late goals to, I think, Western United, which sort of sucked, I guess. But yeah, Perth Glory have never been good. Like of all the like great state teams, Perth Glory definitely ain't it. 1 championship, no premierships. It's the correct way. It's a bit weird in soccer because like you win the premiership by getting top of the table, you win the championship by winning the final game. But in Australia, we care more about the championship than the premiership, even though in most leagues it's the premiership that matters more. Anyway.
I mean, yeah, but if you look at it from an AFL perspective, there's a minor premiership and the major premiership, technically.
Yeah.
So that's kind
It's
of
sort of
the
weird because,
same kind
yeah,
of way you have
there's
to look at it
different
for the A League.
nomenclature. Yeah, but it's like there's different awards because obviously, like the premiership, you win the I think the championship's the trophy. Like that's when you win the final cup.
Yeah.
And you get more money, prize bonuses. But if you win the premiership, you advance to the Euro Asia, whatever it's called. And I remember the Perth Glory going, they had like a couple of players gutted and they got absolutely spanked. I think they only managed to draw against whoever they were playing, but that's really all I can tell you about the A League. I don't watch it. I probably could. Again, it's long. I'm not a soccer hater though. Like,
No, it's
I
just a
feel
sport
like
that I haven't really gotten into.
yeah, but I feel like people hate on it too much for being low scoring because it's like, oh, it's about intensity. You know what I mean? It's like that slow build up. Because
Yeah.
like you get AFL games that are like pretty much a shootout, and it almost doesn't matter if you miss a goal because like everyone's going so freely. You know, like it's exciting, but the exciting bit's like at the end. Like if everyone's scoring freely, like none of the 90 bits matters. It's the biggest problem I have with basketball, especially NBA. I will say that's what I like about the NBL is it's a tiny bit shorter and there's less time out, so it flows a lot freer. It's definitely more palatable product. Plus the NBA season is ridiculous. Who wants to go to like an 82 game season?
Yeah, that
Like
just
it's
sounds
almost as bad as
exhausting.
baseball. Yeah, because the regular season games don't matter. But anyway, that aside, yeah, I've never really followed it. And I finished it all off. We were just talking about it beforehand because I was like, oh, we're going to have a comprehensive all sports coverage. I was thinking about any other leagues. And then I remembered the ABL, which is the baseball league.
The Australian Baseball League that everyone forgets about.
Yeah. So that's coming to a close, I think. I don't know. It goes through the summer. I don't even know where they play.
I know that the
Early
Melbourne Aces have their
season.
field out in the west. I think it's near Williamstown, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I don't know about everyone else.
Yeah, it's weird. Um. Oh, actually, it might be the place I pass because I always see like a sign out, and it's like one of the few places I see baseball. Yeah. Okay. So that is the actual road. Okay, that's where they play it. I pass it a lot of times. That's not actually that near where I live. Okay. Anyway, I've always like Sammy wanted to see a baseball game, but like it goes for too long.
As
It's a bit like
someone,
cricket.
as someone who
You
has
know,
been to a baseball game when I went over to Canada, it is extremely slow.
yeah, but you've when did you go? Was it last year?
May, yeah, it was in May.
Okay, so you should have at least gone when they brought the shot clock in. Oh, shot clock?
Uh,
Pitch clock.
it was well, the game that I went to was a minor league, not a major league, so
Okay, maybe
also
that didn't
didn't
have it in
help.
the minors.
I could have gone to a major league.
Yeah,
The Toronto Blue Jays were playing when I was in Toronto, so I could have gone to a major league game, but
yeah,
I
it can
didn't.
be a bit pricey though as
Yeah,
well.
that's.
I think
I
both
looked
the
at the
Canadian.
tickets and I was like, do I really want to spend that much? I was like, maybe
Yeah,
not.
but I watched a bit of the World Series because it was on, and yeah, with their shot clock, it's much better because they used to have so much talk between pitches. Like I could understand it between innings and all that, but you'd just be like, you'd have a ball, they'll talk for 5 minutes, and then they'll just intentionally throw another ball anyway. So
Yeah,
it's just like you wasted so much time. Whereas now they've got to pressure to get the game moving. Games still go for about 4 hours, but I think they've shaved on average like 40 minutes off each game just by bringing it in, which is pretty huge. So, um, yeah, I don't know if that's the same. They've brought it in uh, for the Australian League. Honestly, I hope they have because like it's played in the Australian summer, and like you know, you don't want to be standing too much time in the sun if you don't have to. So
yeah,
maybe they
exactly
found a way
right.
to make it shorter.
And I wouldn't
Again,
mind
I don't know too much about
actually like seeing how different the Australian league is compared to like the minor league or the major leagues over in the US
it.
and
Yeah.
Canada.
Well, I know they're not that attended. Like you're talking about, it's a very fringe sport. I know a few
Yeah,
people that are into it, but you know what I mean. Like there's going to be a bit less facilities. It's more of a,
they're like
you know,
suburban grounds rather than
yeah,
like
exactly.
major stadiums.
But like we've had some okay, like no big talent, but I'm pretty sure like some Australians have reached like the minor leagues in the US. Um,
Probably.
yeah, um, yeah, but it's good. Always like to see sport represented, and yeah, that's the standings as it is. I can't tell you anything about it. I just thought it would be good to show, and I hope the Perth Heat win again. Um,
I mean, I'd like the
Yeah.
Melbourne Aces to do something, but clearly that's not happening right now.
Well, technically they're only a few wins out at the same time.
Yeah, but I
You know
also
what
don't know
mean?
how many more games are left of the season until like playoffs.
Yeah, true. And I can imagine it's probably just the top two teams. Like they're not going to have a big playoffs for the
No, I would assume
you
it's
know,
either going to be like top two or top four, and just the bottom two kind of
well,
just miss
top
out.
two or even like three or four. Like first one goes automatically, and then like two or three players. Because when you go into different states, it must be very expensive.
Yeah, I would assume so, especially when you're such a small league.
Yeah.
But I would assume they
So
also
yeah.
have like sponsors and stuff that help out, so it's probably not like
Yeah,
not a dead end sport in Australia.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I've seen things, but yeah, again, like it's just like a few shops in the area. You see like the Perth Eat stuff, but I've never seen it like outside the eastern suburbs of Perth.
I haven't
which
even
is
I
where they
haven't
hang
seen
around.
like any sort of advertisements at all anywhere for the Melbourne Aces, which
Yeah,
sucks. But like I know where they play, and I definitely want to go out to it at some point. But it's when you go from the eastern suburbs to the western suburbs, there's not as much public transport infrastructure out in the west.
yeah, I get you. Yeah. Whereas, yeah, as I said, I could probably easily do it. I just haven't. I can't imagine it costing anything because, like, it's an open ground, so
Yeah,
I
I'd
can't
assume
even imagine like,
it might be ticketed, but that might be just like a general admission sort of thing.
yeah. Anyway,
Anyhow,
so yeah, I think pretty much all I got to say about that.
uh,
Actually, no, it's a nice little setup. It's got like little booze and everything.
oh,
That's way more than I thought it would be. Nice. I have to go, but then again, maybe I won't. Capacity 4,500. So not
about you
bad.
would get for an AFLW game.
Well, yeah, I won't ever reach capacity. It's just able to seat that many people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Anyway,
Anyhow, let's switch over to here, and I would have shoehorned maybe a little bit of like esports into the end of this, but there isn't really all that much going on currently. Like because I don't watch half of the major esports that go on, and I barely even watch the Overwatch Championship Series now because it's no longer the Overwatch League. So like I can't really help with any of that. If we were to do an esports centric episode, I would get on to special guests for that. I know a few people that are much more interested in that sort of topic than I am. But
yeah.
until that ever happens, thank you all so much for coming to tune in, hanging out, and chilling with us for our return in 2025. Our content coming up will be our team breakdowns for the season ahead. They will start coming out probably first week of Feb. We'll just give ourselves some extra time to finish writing them down. Any sort of other information we need going into pre-seasons. And so that'll be all 18 teams. There are 18 teams, right? 18?
Yeah, I plan on writing 18 teams, and then we'll work out on how we're going to present that sort of content. I maybe, depending on what we do, I'll either put out like a written supplement so you can read the little write-ups, but as I said, when we talk, it's going to be a bit more just the expectations,
Mhm.
a few notes of like areas of concerns, and we'll probably do a ladder as we go because I've already been thinking about where teams heading. I'm gonna do
Yeah, we'll
stuff.
do ladder predictors. We'll do like end of season
Yeah,
predictors.
all that sort of stuff.
And we'll also fit in like any sort of off-season news that has happened in between our last episode and now.
And I know we like awkwardly put in the preseason games, but I don't think we're going to focus on it. But we probably will mention them as they come out in February.
Yeah, because like we did last season, the first preseason game isn't really sort of advertised or statistically tracked all that much, but the second one, the quote-unquote official one, is. So we'll probably use that first preseason gap to just do the normal content that we're currently planning, and then we'll likely probably cover the second preseason as more officially.
Also, I've forgotten
because
I haven't really mentioned it to you. I'm going to the Indigenous All Stars game, Best Fremantle. So
excellent.
how the vibes are. I might put a bit of photos on the gram. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I'm looking very much forward to it. Great initiative by the AFL. Hopefully WA gets to keep it. But yeah, excited to see the first one in almost exactly a month's time.
Oh yeah,
Well, it will be when this episode comes out.
Oh yeah, because it's
Yes.
start of Feb, isn't it? It's just before preseason.
15th of Feb. That's when it's out, and this episode will be out
on the 15th of January. That was pretty much a month. Good timing.
Yeah, and it's my mum's birthday on that. Well, on the 15th of when this episode comes out. So happy birthday, mum!
Happy birthday to Psyrick's mum. Yes, let me just quickly go through any extra talks that we have that I need to look at. No, I think we're good. So ladder predictions, end of season predictions, maybe even award predictions as a follow-up to our awards period
Maybe
last year.
Yeah,
and then team summaries,
let a
of
few
course.
in. I don't think I'll be very good at them, but I'll chuck a few names in the hat.
We'll probably just throw out, like, the big name players. We'll just get them, and then that'll be it.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's going to be a lot
You
harder to
never know.
judge something like, rookies when we don't really know all that much about them.
Oh yeah, I've got no idea.
I'll just say Sam Layla wins Rookie of the Year. Done deal.
Yeah, I'll put Jagger Smith.
Number
Why
one
not?
draft pick. I'll put him in.
I mean, I've already done it now, so we got to add it in.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
But yes, thank you all so much for coming to hang out, chat, and chill. And we look forward to seeing you in. Who knows? We might even start early, or we will start in a couple of weeks. We will let you know. For
Either
episode
very
40,
late January or early Feb.
yes, either it'll be before the Australia Day long weekend sort of period, or it'll be the week after. But we will let you know as per normal. So until then, thank you all so much, and we will see you very, very soon. Goodbye.